welcome to Mortgage Markets and More. I'm your host, Peter D'Angelo. Welcome to Monday, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. If you spent it with family, celebrating the holiday that there was, and if you have spring break this week, I hope you have an awesome, fun-filled week ahead. I know I sure do, and I've got the mortgage rate update for us as we head into the new week. We'll start off with the numbers, as we always do here, as is tradition here on a Monday morning. The 30-year conforming fixed-rate mortgage, that was at 6.91% on average. The 30-year FHA last week was at 6.39%. The 30-year jumbo was at 7.29%. That's kind of staying pretty flat. Not much movement there as we've been keeping our eye on this over the past couple weeks. And the 15-year fixed-rate mortgage was at 6.48%. And the 7/6 SOFR ARM, that's an adjustable rate mortgage based upon the secured overnight funding rate, that was at 6.61%. So overall, compared to last week, a little bit of improvement. Things were starting to move in a better direction. Every little bit is a little bit more buying power, especially for those who are shopping and maxing out their qualification. Again, these numbers are the average of mortgage rates in the survey done by Mortgage News Daily, which is a website that aggregates different companies and the mortgage rates being published and offered at the time. So that's how we ended off last week. And I thought it's more appropriate today to talk about a very important data figure that was published on Friday last week that is certainly going to have an impact on the mortgage rates as we move forward over the next couple weeks, particularly before the Fed's May 1st meeting. So the Federal Reserve isn't meeting in April. Their next meeting is now May 1st. So we have a little bit more time for the market to kind of digest data, digest whatever's happening, and then we see what our lending environment will look like until we hear from the Fed again. What are we going to talk about today? Friday, we got the PCE, the personal consumption expenditure. This is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. It's incredibly important for us to pay attention to this because this is what the Fed will be looking at when they meet leading up to their May 1st meeting. We may get some commentary before their meeting from different Fed members. Maybe Fed Chair Jerome Powell may say something. But for now, let's just look at the numbers as they stand. And it's kind of consistent with what we've been seeing this year so far. Kind of good news, bad news, or just not good or bad. Just is what it is, kind of existing in this limbo space. And that's what you're going to hear now. So there's the headline, which is the all-encompassing, all-inclusive personal consumption expenditure. How much did the price of things rise month over month and year over year? That headline figure came in up 0.333% month over month. And this was against the estimate of 0.4%. So we're talking about a very small margin. That's also why I'm sharing 3 decimal places. I don't normally do that, but I wanted to show that there's progress, but it's slow and it's small. But at least it's not going up. It's just a touch lighter than where the expectation is. If you round, you're rounding it up to 0.4 anyway. Year over year, we saw it go up to 2.451% from 2.433%. And that's exactly where expectations were. So February of last year, comparing it over to March, where we got our PCE numbers from on Friday, kind of flat. So we're not at 2%. This is the number. This headline number is what we're looking for to see year over year 2% inflation, 2.451. Small, making progress, but I would call this flat right now. The core, this is taking into account all of the prices of consumer goods, different markets, different industries, but we're going to take out the volatile ones. So things like food and energy, they're considered to be volatile commodities because the prices do fluctuate a lot. And the core is showing up to 0.261% versus the estimate of 0.3. So yet again, just a touch under where the estimate was. That's nothing to, sound a victory bell for, but the fact that it's not going up is good. We'll take that glass half full approach, in my opinion. And then the year over year core is at 2.784. And if you recall, last month, that was at 2.884%. So we're seeing some more progress downward, but it is slow going. I know we were really excited last time we got the PCE, and we were thinking, oh man, we're getting really close. We're getting within striking distance of that 2% target. But now that we're that close, it's kind of like trying to lose weight. Maybe you lose the first 5 or 10 pounds very quickly when you start dieting and exercising, but then to lose that next 5 could take you 3 times as long. This is a good analogy for what it's like in the economy, particularly with trying to tamp down inflation and get it to reach that 2% target that the Fed has. I'm also going to share with you the housing cost. On Friday, we took a look at the National Association of Realtors' existing sales data. All of that data plays a role here in what we are seeing as the increase in housing costs. Now, the increase in home prices doesn't mean a one-to-one correlation with what we're going to see in something like the personal consumption expenditure, the PCE. So you're going to see some differences here, and here it is. Month over month, we saw a 0.443% increase in housing costs. This is not exclusively to single-family homes, but let's just look at housing costs in general, inclusive of rent, everything like that. Year over year, it's up 5.864%, and that's down from 6.129% last year. So we're looking better. It's becoming more affordable. There are some markets, as we talked about in past episodes, that the rental market is cooling a bit. So we're not seeing rent prices continue to rise. We're seeing them come down a little bit in some markets. Other markets are perfectly fine and things are existing flat, or they're increasing. So it's kind of depends on where you are in the country right now. These are national numbers. So where you live, it could be a little different. So bear that in mind. But the point of looking at all of these numbers, this is what the Fed is going to look at when they're starting to make their decisions on policy, particularly the Fed fund rate, the discount rate, where that will be. Again, that's at 5.25% to 5.5%, always in a margin. If that comes down, then we see the cost of financing go down. That's what we're rooting for. But they've made it very clear, particularly Fed Chair Jerome Powell. We need to see inflation come down and continue to move toward the 2% for them to cut their Fed fund rate. In addition to looking at housing, we also get some reports when they issue the PCE. We get reports of personal income. So this is how much money the American consumer is making, and that's up 0.3% month over month. All right, so we're seeing some modest gains there. And the personal spending is also up 0.8% month over month. So there's a little bit of a disparity there. There's a little bit more spend than the increase in income, but we'll keep an eye on this with future PCE reports. But overall, that's healthy enough. We're not seeing a very small amount of wage gain, a small amount of income gain, and a large outlay of personal spending. And the savings rate is now down to 3.6%. So when you consider the income people are getting and how much of that they're putting away, that's your savings rate, 3.6%. That is the lowest savings rate in this country since December of 2022. So a little over a year ago, we saw it reach that low point of 3.6%. Questions we can ask ourselves are, is this indicative of the American consumer feeling the pinch now, having a longer term exposure to higher prices for everything? Maybe that's the case. Is there a drawdown on savings? People are using savings to make ends meet while things are more expensive. That could be the case. Are people depleting their savings because the income isn't enough to support the household anymore by way of mandatory monthly obligations, including housing, rent, mortgage, any other second mortgages or other liens you have on your property? Or is it credit card debt? All of these things can be contributing to a drawdown on savings, leaving us with a much lower savings rate as a country. That is it from me today. Looking forward to having our episode on Friday, getting back into the mix with our regular cadence of real estate news and updates with what we're seeing. I am looking forward to sharing some more about some local markets on Friday, particularly for myself. But until then, I hope you all make it a great week, and I'm excited to talk with you all again on Friday. Take good care. Thank you.